Hello and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be ranking all of these Pokemon Journeys episodes on this tier list, and it's every episode from season 1 of Pokemon Journeys, because now we're pretty sure that season 2 has begun with the Mewtwo episode, as there was new introductions, so it depends where the dub decide to place season 2, but we're going to be ranking all of these episodes so far, and this tier list was created by this person on Twitter, so be sure to check it out as well, and I hope you enjoy. So episode 1 is the backstory to Pikachu, where we see it as a Pichu with its friends Kangaskhan. This was a weird introduction episode for me. It was so different to any other series. They went completely a different way with this, and we had a nice introduction to Go as a child. We even saw Mew, and we saw a flashback of Ash. This was a good episode. It wasn't one of my favourite starts. I would prefer the traditional start to a region where Ash travels to a new region in the first episode, but I'd give it a 7 out of 10. Also, disclaimer that my rankings will probably differ to some of the review scores that I gave in my other videos, because opinions change, and my opinions have changed a lot on this series as it goes on. And episode 2, where Ash meets Go, they both meet Lugia. This was a really good episode. It was a nice introduction to Go. We got to see a lot about his character, and of course Ash and Go joined the lab, so I'll give it an 8 out of 10. Next up is episode 3, the Ivysaur episode. I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. It was a good, nice little filler adventure with the Ivysaur. Also, it showed how strong Ash was still in this series. He hadn't been reset, and he took down Team Rocket really easily. Episode 4 is where they go to Galar for the first time. Go meets Scorbunny. I'm going to also give that a 7 because that was a nice episode. It could have been a lot better. It could have introduced Galar a little bit better. But I think the next episode does that a lot better. So I'll give the next one an 8 out of 10. Shows the wild area. Shows the G-Max Snorlax. And Go catches Scorbunny, which was cool. And then episode 6 was massive because it kind of changed a lot of things in the series. It introduced Go's goal, and he just captured about 10 to 12 Pokemon in this one episode, and everyone was pretty annoyed that he was just not battling them, but it kind of outlaid how the series is going to go. This was, at first I didn't like it that much, but I think I'm going to give it an 8 because I actually enjoyed the whole forest scene and where they're just encountering a load of different Pokemon. It was pretty cool. Episode 7 was the first real battle episode that we got, and I'm going to give it a 9 because it was really good. We saw Ash battle with Mr. Mime, and he of course won the tournament to show everyone that he's still strong after winning the Alola League. And then the Sinnoh episode, I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. It wasn't the best episode. It was the first real fillerish episode, you could say, other than the Ivysaur one. But yeah, it was a bit bland. There wasn't too much happening. Next up is the Ho-Oh episode, episode 9. And I'm going to give this a 7 out of 10. I know this is a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I really like this episode. I think it was down to bad marketing that this episode is so hated, because it was that we saw that poster of Ash and the tower and the Ho-Oh feather, which made us think it's going to be something a bit different than it is. But it was still a good story with the old man wanting to see Ho-Oh. And then the Dragonite episode, the episode that broke Twitter for the first time, was when Ash caught Dragonite. This was a really solid episode. I don't think it's quite 10 worthy, but Ash caught a Dragonite, so what more can you say? And then episode 11 is when Gengar debuts, and this was actually a really good episode. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. We got some nice Chloe development. She had a battle for the first time with her Yamper. And then on to episode 12, Leon versus Lance. And this is for sure the first 10 out of 10. I mean, bringing Lance back all the way from Hoenn is the last time he appeared. It was just a big moment, and it made me think that they could really bring anyone back at this point. And then episode 13 was a bit more disappointing. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. I liked how it set up Ash's goal really well to one day face Leon in a full 6-on-6 battle. But the battle that we did get in this episode wasn't very good. The Gigantamax Pikachu just didn't really look that great, and the battle didn't function well. Next up is the raid battle in Unova. This was a massive episode for Go, and I just really like the exploration factor in this episode, where they go to explore and find a mystery Pokemon. So this is an 8 out of 10 as well. I know there's a lot at the minute, but that will change. And then the Cubone episode, wasn't a big fan of this one. I know a lot of people were. I did like the capture at the end, how Go bonded with Cubone, but throughout the episode it was just a bit boring. I'm going to give it, it's not as bad as the Sinnoh episode, so I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. And then finally the Gengar episode, where Ash captures Gengar, and it's another 8 out of 10. It's maybe pushing 9. We got a really good backstory for Ash's Gengar, how it was abandoned, which was cool, but I don't think it makes any higher. Next up is episode 17, and this is an episode that I think turned many people off Go. He just treated Scorbunny really badly in this episode. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10 as well. I just wasn't that big a fan of it. I liked the evolution at the end and the new move that Raboot learned, but just how Go treated it was out of character for Go. I know it was still early, but even back then he was still nice to his Pokemon, and it just felt off. Next up is this episode with Ash versus the guy that works for Surge. Can't remember his name, but that's definitely a 10 out of 10 episode. This was an episode that really got me invested in the Pokemon World Championship, because it was just epic. It was an awesome battle, and Gengar, he hasn't done anything since, but he put in some nice work in that battle. And now my least favourite episode of Journeys. Maybe not actually. Maybe there's one more that's lower than this, but this is 3 out of 10. I think it's fair for this one. We've seen Ditto episodes in the past which are much better than this one. Maybe if Team Rocket got Ditto, this would have been a better episode, but this was just really bland. Next is episode 20, and I didn't appreciate this one that much at first, but I've grown to really like this one. I'm going to give it a 7. It could probably be a little bit higher, but I think it's a really good solid episode which, you know, shows off Ash and Go's goals. Episode 21 is a 10 out of 10, of course. It's the aura connection between Ash and Riolu. Ash finally catches a Riolu after all this time. It was just a perfect moment. Episode 22, one I enjoyed, probably not as much as a lot of people. I'm probably going to give it a 6 out of 10. I mean, there was one really, really good moment in this episode at the end, where Go's running through the train and he regrets leaving Raboot behind. And then Raboot is just there in the train with him. I love that. Episode 23 it was a big moment because we finally got the return of Pokemon Journeys after the hiatus. So that was what made it a special moment. But the episode itself was pretty poor. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10. It was fun to see all of Go's Pokemon interact in the park, but the story was not that enjoyable. And then the Team Rocket episode where they go on vacation, I'm struggling to remember what I ranked this one. I think it was a 6, and I think I stick by that. It was a fun little adventure with Team Rocket and Matori returning, but it wasn't anything spectacular. And then the Ash versus Karina battle, that's got to be 10. I think I ranked it lower, which I regret, because it was pretty epic and it was a massive moment having a gym leader return with a mega Lucario to face Ash, and it was a very, very popular, Karina's a very popular character, so it was awesome to see her back. And then we got the 2-parter with the Magikarp jump themed episode. This is a 7 out of 10. Like, story wise it's bloody ridiculous, 0 out of 10 story wise, but the humour in this episode was just top tier. And then Leon versus Rihann, this is another 10 out of 10 episode. Like, there was 2 halves to this episode. The first half was the battle, which I really enjoyed, and the second half was Ash capturing Farfetch, which I also really enjoyed. So it had 2 amazing parts to it. It was just a really great episode. So next up is the Go capturing Sobble episode. I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10. I really didn't like it. It was mainly about Team Rocket, and the storyline was a bit stupid, and Go only caught it in about 4 minutes. I felt it could have been more about Sobble itself. Episode 29 is the Yamper and the P-Dove, this was really good. It was a nice backstory for Chloe and her Yamper, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Next up is the most divisive episode of Pokemon I've ever seen, episode 30, the one where Pikachu and Ash fall out. And yes, it was very out of character for Ash, but I felt the personalities of Pikachu and Delia especially, and Ash at the end, really made this episode better. I gave it a 10 out of 10 initially, but I'm going to knock it down to a 9. I still think it was a really good episode. And then the Feebas contest, this was a really good episode. I'm going to give it a 7. Another Chloe episode getting a 7. There was some more nice development for her. And then Go and Tokyo, this is another 10 out of 10. This is one of my favourite episodes to this day of Journeys. It explores Go's backstory really well with his former friend Tokyo, who he thinks abandoned him, but it turns out he didn't. It was just another great episode. Next up is the trade-in episode. This was a bit disappointing for me. I expected more from a trade festival, but it was nice to see Go get Heracross. So I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. It was average. And then Ash versus B, 10 out of 10. B enters with a bang. She absolutely destroys Ash, and it was just a really great battle, and it really shows how strong certain trainers can be. Episode 35 is where Go gets his own Pikachu. This was an okay episode. I'm probably going to give it a 7 out of 10, probably a lower tier 7, closer to a 6. And then the Flygon episode is an 8 out of 10. This was really good. It really developed Go as a trainer. He caught his Flygon and he used some of Ash's tactics. And we also got Ash's losing streak in this episode, where he was doubting his own ability after losing to B. And then we all know this one is a 10 out of 10 straight away. It's Ash returning to Alola, everyone's favourite episode. And this was just really hyped to see him go back to the region where he won the league, and a region where he had a family and he sees all of his old Pokemon. And then the fossil episode with Koharu, Chloe, I'm going to give a 4 out of 10. I'm going to give a 5 out of 10. I don't think it's that bad. I probably went a bit higher in my review, but I remember this one being very bland. And then Ash and B's rematch where they draw. I know a lot of people liked this one more than the original battle, but that wasn't the case for me. I think I gave it an 8 out of 10, and I'm going to stick by that. It was nice to see Chuck return in that episode. The draw made complete sense from a narrative point of view, because they're going to have a third battle in B Stadium, I think, with Gigantamax involved. But it just felt rushed. It was like 5 episodes away from this one, and it was like, why is this happening so soon? This wasn't set up very well, and even the episode itself was really rushed. It was just like, I'm here now, I'm going to battle you again. It just wasn't as good as the first one, in my opinion. And then episode 40, the Zapdos episode, is a 7 out of 10. Maybe I gave it an 8 in my review, but yeah, it was really good. It was another great episode for Go, as he took down a Zapdos pretty much. He nearly caught it, and that would have made people very angry. The Marshtomp episode, yeah, 1 out of 10. I think I ranked it higher, but yeah, this is bad. And then we get to the Darkest Day. The first episode is an 8 out of 10. No, a 9 out of 10 for the first episode. This set things up really well. We got introduced to Zacian and Zamazenta in a really cool way. And yeah, it was just a great way to start the Darkest Day arc. And then the second one is the weakest, but it's still an 8, because we got a lot of monologue in this episode. I felt this was the biggest setup episode for the whole arc. But we got this nice picture with Leon and Sonia. We got their backstory. We got Chairman Rose's backstory. We just got a lot of backstories. And then the third one was a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I thought this led into the final one really well. It set up everyone's battles towards the end, which I really liked. And then of course the last one is also a 10 out of 10, where we got these two boys evolve, which is just an iconic moment for Ash to finally get his Lucario after so long. It was just a really good arc overall. So that's pretty much it. for season 1 of Journeys. There is 2 more episodes. The Mewtwo one, which I would give an 8 out of 10, and the eating contest, which would get a 7 out of 10. But I think they're going to be part of season 2, because that's how it seems to be shaping up. But you can see there's only one out of 10, which I think is very valid. This one was pretty dire. These 3 episodes are not very good, but the rest are pretty decent. You can see there's a lot of 8 out of 10s and 7 out of 10s, so I'm pretty high on this series so far, and it can only get better, I think, into season 2. I did have a few problems with the pacing, like I said about the B episode, and maybe it's because of the pandemic that happened, but hopefully season 2 picks up the scheduling and the pacing a little bit better. Like Ash and B, like 5 episodes out, the Alola return in the middle, it was a bit clunky, so hopefully they can fix that, and then it will just make for a better series and it will be less episodic. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts. What's your favourite episode of Journeys? Give me your top 5 in the comments or something. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.